All right, Yellow Colored Glasses, episode 5. We're back in action. We had some technical difficulties on our first
go around.
So rescheduled, knocking it out right now. And just to review, we have a special guest on this morning, and it's Mrs. Mounts, my mom, and she's on really to come on and talk about the strategy that we've been putting out there on our social media. We've been talking about that's really about a different way to pay your mortgage off and a different way to really go about your financial future with the way that you have your house set up and the way that you're paying things off. And she's on here because she was our very first customer that trusted us to do this with us. And she's been doing it for 7 months now.
7 months.
Right? Mm-hmm. And she's having incredible results. So we wanted to get her on here to talk about that. She's going to talk about her perspective the first time that she heard me present it to her, and just how things are going overall. So we're going to fill you guys in on all that. And then we got a couple stories for you too that we're going to kind of knock out. So
maybe.
So before we talk about what it actually is, what was your reaction or response or thoughts the first time that I came to you and told you about this?
Well, the first time out of many times that you told me about it, I was like, well, that sounds pretty good, but it was just kind of a information overload for me. I get pretty confused about this financial stuff, and Dusty just talks like it's, just old hat to him. So I really didn't pay much attention, and then he kept coming back. Hey, Mom, you really need to try this. You really need to try this. So I really didn't think that Carl, his dad, would want to do it. So when I talked to him about it, he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds like, pretty good idea. I know all about interest, whatever. So I'm like, okay. So we talked about it a little more, and he explained it in better terms so that I could understand it. And so I was a little nervous about it, but we did it and very happy.
Yeah, so it's really, it's a totally different way of thinking. It's not really about the product itself. It's how you use it, and it's probably a little scary, right? When you first...
Yes, because it's like you said, it's a different way of thinking, and when you've had a certain mindset, because we have always, from the beginning when we have had a mortgage, our whole purpose is to get it paid off.
Yeah.
And we've tried different ways over the years that have worked pretty well, but this was so different.
Yeah.
And when Dusty told me the results that we would get, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'll do it because I trust you, and this seems to be something you really believe in, so I'll go ahead and try it.
Yeah. But you thought it was too good to be true at first, though.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of times, though, this stuff seems so complicated, and I think people get so scared about it. And I'll include myself in that, too, at certain points in my life. But it's so simple. Money either works for you or it works against you. Okay, so when we're talking about interest, all right, interest can work for you or it can work against you. And our whole upbringing, generations and generations, have used a mortgage. They think that it's just an investment into a house, that they're putting money over time. Their house gets, it goes up in value. They get equity, and they're fine with paying off hundreds of thousands of dollars of interest into their home.
Yeah,
and you don't have to do that. And there's ways to access that. Over the last 3 years, we've all seen the housing market just go
100%
crazy. There's a lot of money that's sitting there that you can use, and that's not necessarily your guys' goal with this process. Okay, your goal was to get this all paid off, knocked out, completely be debt free. That's awesome. There's a lot of other options and ways to use this as well too.
100%.
So,
Jake, and this is and to go back on a totally different way of thinking, like this is actually how banks originally started this. Right? And then they found out, hey, we're not making money right now, because money is, cash is actually a liability, right? So that's why banks take the money and they loan it out. So we give a bank money and they loan it out to everybody else. And banks caught on like, man, they're not making as much money as they could be right now. So they changed it into a conventional mortgage and put that interest across 30 years, 15 years. So guess what? So then it's a fixed rate. They can take your money and they can just start dispersing it out and making more money. So that's why you don't see, that's why it's not about the product. You know, the product's been around for years. It's about how you use it. And once it clicks, and I'd probably say I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months in, it probably was like, oh wow, this is kind of fun, and kind of like understanding and maybe a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. I kept, I would call Dusty and say, hey, I need you to look this over. I just don't think it was just hard for me to get used to the process of what we were doing, and just, I'm still working on my mindset.
Yeah.
When we looked last month, remember when we sat down and went over how it was all looking? I'm pretty sure that in 6 months at the time, if you would have kept paying your mortgage the way that you were paying it, you would have paid off about $6,000 worth of principal, okay, during that time. And you had paid off almost $40,000 of your principal. And you literally had flipped the interest that you paid and the principal that you paid versus what you were doing.
Yeah.
So it's the proof. I mean, it's right there. You can see every bit of it.
Yeah, and that's and did you change anything? I mean, like, let me ask you that. Like, did you make a lot more money to be able to pay the extra $40,000 down, or did anything about your life change other than you just started utilizing a different strategy?
Yeah, lots of things changed, but it wasn't more money coming in.
Financially, your financial situation stayed exactly the same?
No.
No, okay.
No, my financial situation went down just a little.
So it went down, and we still, okay.
So I was worried about that, but we've been putting a lot of money into paying our debt down.
Yeah.
And so when that debt was gone, except for the house, we started putting all that money into the house.
Yeah.
And probably about 5 months in, so probably, I guess the last couple of months have changed a bit, but I was worried about that, but it's still, I've been able to keep putting the money into that, even though I'm not putting as much as I want. So what it'll do is it might slow me down a little bit. Instead of having my house paid for in 2 to 3 years, it may be 4.
Yeah. Well, that's not terrible.
No.
Compared to 10 or 15 or whatever 20 it was.
So let's take a step back too, and we're not going to sit here and go through every single step in detail on this podcast. But the overview of this, you guys had already refinanced from a 30-year to a 15-year, right?
Yes.
With like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And real quick, interest rates have just been incredibly low. I mean, historically low. Over the last 10 years, they've just been down. Keep going. And most of the people in our generation, we kind of just think that's how it is.
That's how it used to be? Or
that's how it is, but it's not. It's not at all.
That's not how it used to be. Like when you were probably buying your first house, interest rates were 10, 13%.
You had to figure for every $10,000 you were going to borrow, it was going to be $100 in your payment. So for us, when we were first married, we bought a $50,000 house finally, like 3 years into our marriage, and it was $500 a month, and that was a lot of money for us at the time. Yeah. We didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And it was a tiny house.
Yep. And that's why interest rates were so high then, right? Is because housing, was so much lower, and now you're going out and buying a $300,000 or $400,000 house. I would have never thought that I would have lived in a $300,000 or $400,000 house, and that's almost
but Jake,
a little above average house nowadays.
The housing was low, but we were coming out of some really serious economic times too.
For sure, yeah.
The point is, let's say in the last couple of years you bought a house and you've got a 2.5 interest rate or 3.1 or whatever. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have an interest rate that low again. And you're like, hey, we need to just keep that. Guys, we are saving my mom here. She is saving. It's not we. She's the one doing it. Over $100,000 of interest on a 15-year note, okay? Not a 30-year note, a 15-year note, okay? because of this strategy, and it's incredible. And her interest rate that she's got on
Yeah, what was that?
So we did a locked in rate for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much was her interest rate on the conventional mortgage?
I think it was
before?
3.2
Two.
or 3.5.
Wow.
It was, to me, it was a little bit higher.
Yeah, than what it had a couple times. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Well, they did it right before it.
Because me and you have I have like a 2.2 on our house, and you have
We have a 2.6.
2.6.
Yeah.
So
When we refinanced, it was just a little bit more. I mean, and that was like, I was like, oh my goodness, that's way more than we were. But for whatever reason, I don't remember, it was a good move for us.
Well, and that's the other thing, I bet, like, that's how our mind works, is like, whenever we run across a 2% interest rate, 3% interest rate, and then we're like, oh, well, this is going to be maybe a 6% interest rate, or a 7 or 5, or whatever it is, a higher number, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And that's not how it is, right? That's how you utilize it. And that's why I keep stressing that. It's not about the product, it's how you utilize these products. So
And that's how the mind works, because if you, and this is not the same thing, but it's the same process. You think about the gas price. You drive past this station and it's, 3 cents more than it is down the road, like quite a ways down the road. People will drive way extra or out of their way to save those 2, 3, 4 cents when they could have, so it's how our mind works.
Their time or their extra, however much money they would save with having 10 gallons of gas and saving 3 cents, and the extra miles to get there. So that's exactly right.
Yeah, her and I have had we've had, I joke with my mom all the time because she'll wait in line at Costco.
Oh, is this something that you do, Darla?
Oh, yes, it is.
All right,
That's how my mind works.
Okay.
I
thought you were talking about the regular crowd out
I'm
there.
talking
this
about
is
myself.
about yourself. Okay.
Now, if I can save 20 or 30 cents, for sure,
I'm with you. I'll follow. I'll drive behind you
and
on
that's
that
Costco.
Yes, Costco. Yeah.
But
That's funny.
it's also cool because we've already talked about, like, on our podcast, mindset, right? And thinking differently and being okay with getting out of your comfort zone. And just how me and Amanda, your guys' impact on us and our changes. And so, Mom, you've been doing things the same way for so long. And that's how you knew how to do things. So the fact that you did this and you trusted us and you got out of the comfort zone, and now you're seeing crazy great results, and you have a lot of flexibility. Like,
that's the other part I was going to hit on, is the flexibility. Like, that's a huge, if anything, I know there's a lot of things that have happened and changed, but that, out of all the things, like, not only are you saving a ton of money and paying things down, but you have a ton of flexibility and a bunch of security that is just literally fingertips away, which is probably a beautiful feeling. I know that's a great feeling to have.
Well, but it's almost like it's not really real. It's so I'm still kind of a little bit.
And that's an okay mindset to have on it, right? Like, because then you can just say, okay, we're just focusing, we're pivoting a little bit, and we're doing this much and doing this much, but like you said, like, you don't need it, but if it's there,
right?
And you've done a couple little updates to the house too, right?
I'm getting ready
because
to.
Of this. Yeah. Done a couple updates that this money was available to you now, and you're still. I know you said things changed a little bit, but you're still on track to pay the house off in basically the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it, like 3 years?
It was about 3 years.
So what was the total interest savings? Do you guys remember whenever we ran all the illustrations?
It was right at 100K.
100K.
Right at 100K.
And that was on a 15-year note with the 3% interest rate.
And your interest rate now on this product, which is a simple interest product, okay, is not something that's compounding. It works just like if you had a car payment, okay. It works that kind of interest. And essentially, what my mom is able to do is she's able to take her paycheck every single month, and she's able to put this in here into this loan, and it's knocking down that simple interest. Right? It's knocking down the total that she owes. And then whenever her bills come out every single month, it comes right out of the same account, all right? And it's literally knocking it down at such a fast rate that all her money comes into the same account, comes out of the same account. She's focused on it, she's disciplined with it, and it's all just one big quick cycle to knock everything down.
I kind of look at it as it's like a seesaw, kind of.
Yeah.
Only the house payment side or the balance on the mortgage just keeps going down, and the other side where the money comes out of that, where so it kind of takes a little out of the equity, that kind of goes up just a little, but the other side of the seesaw is really going down.
That's a good.
And this one's coming up just a little, so it's a little bit off balance, but it's a good balance.
It's like if me and Jake were on a seesaw, I would be weighing it down. I would be shooting Jake up.
Exactly. You would be the mortgage balance, and Jake would, and Jake would be the equity.
That's about right. I always like going downstairs. I'm almost like picturing it like going downstairs, because like your loan balance is going down, but your available funds is going up at the same time. And that's it. But that's a good. I like that analogy. That was good.
What would you tell someone? What would your advice be to somebody that was in a situation like you? If we came to them and told them about this, what would be your advice to them?
To really listen and try to understand. And if you can't understand, then keep asking, because that's what I did. Kept saying, Dusty, I can't grasp this. This is too much. And so he brought it down into the way I could understand it. Yeah. And just seeing it on paper too. Just there was a form or like a spreadsheet or whatever that we filled out, and it just showed exactly how it would start looking on paper. And I'm kind of a visual person, so just to really listen and understand it, because just understanding, it might be simple to you guys, but for me, understanding the difference in compound interest and simple interest, and once I was able to grasp that concept, it totally made sense.
And that's a great point. And there's probably not a lot of people understand the difference between the simple interest and the compounding. And the reason why this is so good is because you think about it, like on this product, when your loan balance decreases, that interest is you're only paying the interest on that current loan balance. So since you're paying it down so much every time, realistically your minimum payment is going down every single month, which is why one of the reasons why you're saving so much money in interest, even though you might have a 3 to 4% higher interest rate, or I'm not sure
it's not even that
much higher.
We locked yours in at 4.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at that,
which is amazing.
And I was like, oh, that's higher. That's higher than my 3.2.
Yeah.
But we've really come down.
Even someone right now could lock in a 6 or 6.5 right now with the prime rate.
I just had a conversation with a client just a couple weeks ago. The guy had a 3% interest rate, and I had the rate set at 6.5. Okay. And this guy had like 27 years on his house left, and it was going to and nothing changed about his financial situation. He just wanted to get out of debt, and it was going to have his house paid off in 6.5 years and save him like $130,000 in interest.
Yep.
So we increased the interest rate by more than double almost. Yep. Or actually, no, definitely more than double. And it still did that.
So, like you said, the interest rate, it's not comparing the same interest rate. It's
apples and oranges here is what we're doing, is what we're talking about. And like I said, that we just keep hitting back on it. It's how you utilize this thing.
100%.
So
it's, guys, there's so many strategies out there. Everybody can find a pro and a con with certain strategies. Here's the bottom line. No financial strategy works if you're not disciplined. That's it. You have to have a plan. So you can be on the Dave Ramsey debt snowball. You can use credit cards and want to invest, blah, blah, blah. You can do it real estate. You can do anything works. Anything can work depending on your goals, your risk tolerance. None of it will work if you don't have discipline and you don't stick to a plan. So that's all this is. This is amazing though.
So 3 things, really there's 3 things that make this product like for an ideal client would be, 1, you got to be able to follow a plan, right? You got to be able to stick to a plan. You got to be disciplined, which sometimes is hard, but when you have the plan lined out, then you commit to it, understand it, and you go with it, right? So that's the biggest thing. Second thing, you got to have positive cash flow, right? I mean, if this is something that somebody's living paycheck to paycheck, not saying this product is not for you. but it might not be the best time for you, right? So we might need to wait until, you get some other debt paid off, or, maybe your financial situation, increases, or whatever that might look like, but it might not be the best time. And then the third thing is probably 20% equity in your house and been there for at least 2 years?
Yeah, and if you've been there 2 years with what the housing market's done.
100%. I mean, and, because 2 years ago, if you've been there for 2 years, 100%. And then really it just kind of depends on everybody's situation. Like, even if you haven't been there for 2 years, as long as you have 20% equity in your home, this product is for you. You're not going to over leverage yourself. That's kind of the sweet spot. Realistically, you could get away with having only 10%, but numbers and margins get tighter there. So I think.
And when they came out and did the appraisal of our house, it had a name, but they didn't even come in the house. They just went around, took pictures, and the amount that they appraised it for was way higher, obviously, than we paid. Yeah. But if they'd come in and done a real appraisal, it would have been much higher.
I think so too, and that's what banks will do sometimes. If they know, like, your original loan balance was X amount, they're like, well, all we have to do is get it above that and X amount, right? So, because I've had that happen on the Warrensburg property. They didn't even go out and actually appraise it. They did like an evaluation or like an online.
I'm like, a quick something.
Yeah, I'm like, how is that? Like, when do you guys get to pick and choose, like, when to do these things? But yeah, I mean, an actual appraisal would always typically come back a little bit more. So,
well, we're gonna keep you guys posted on her results over the next 6 months, and guys, if you got questions, if you just want to, we want to have the conversation with you. We're super jacked up about it.
Look, I mean, let's hit on it briefly, because we don't want to go into all the details with it. Not because we're not trying. It's not like a secret. Like, this isn't something that me and Dustin have created or anything like that at all. Like, this is something that we have mentors that have helped us. We've been learning on this for almost 12 months now. So I get jacked up about it. We were on the plane to Arizona last weekend, and about 2 minutes into the flight, I'm already
teaching somebody.
I'm already freaking jacked up and like, yeah, dude, have you ever heard about this? And blah 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 blah. So it's just going to be really cool, because it's going to help so many people. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that it's going to help so many people in our area, because no one's doing this right now. Nobody's doing this in this area. I've never heard of it, and I am always looking for just very unique strategies.
It's almost like a best kept secret.
There is a reason for that. There's a reason for that.
What do you think the reason is?
I would assume that the mortgage companies, the banks, don't really want.
No.
Because that was one thing. When I was doing this, they kept trying to put me through to this different. And they're like, no, you don't want that. And I'm like, yeah. This is what I want.
Tried to put you to, no, well, interest rates are super low. Why don't we just do a traditional?
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, and so I was like, Dusty, are you sure? Mom? Yes. So, and we didn't get to it a second ago, or maybe we did, but I didn't say anything about it. The further I get into this, the more confident and the more excited, because I'm seeing results. It's like anything that you start to do. When you see results, that's when the change takes place and when you really get inspired.
It's like going to the gym. Like, you go to the gym, like, let's say you've never been to the gym before, and you go to the gym and you get a membership, and you're like, okay, now I gotta go, right? Because it's kind of scary to go, and then you start seeing little results. You start getting comfortable with everybody at the gym that that you go there at the same time with, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh, this is fun, and then it starts becoming. Like, then you start seeing huge results and huge excitements with everything, and I think that's how this product works as well. It's like you get you get confident with it, and then you're like, and then you start having fun, because you're like, holy cow, this is cool. I'm paying down so much money and saving so much money and paying down so much debt. Like, it's just really cool.
How can I find more money to put into this?
And you mentioned some people earlier that people try to get their debt down. If you can start, that's one of the things that made me more agreeable to this, because I had already been working hard. Carl and I had been working very hard to snowball our debts, and I mean, we were paying stuff off like crazy. And so that momentum was already building,
And that plan was
yeah.
kind of
So
already
that's
there,
what I
mindset.
would. That's some advice I would give to people
Yeah.
is if you do have debt and you're not quite ready for this, you can practice your discipline on paying that debt,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then you can be ready for it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And even if you do have debt, like this is still good. Like you can realistically roll it all in one. You just got to make sure you have positive cash flow. Right, that's all it is. Like if you have credit card debts, if you have, high vehicle interest rates, whatever that is. I mean, as long as your cash flow is good, it's worth a conversation, 100%. And we're not going to sit here and say it's for everybody. That's not. There's never a blanket policy that works for everybody.
No.
To be honest with you, and that's why when we have a meeting, we have a discussion about this, every situation will be a little bit different, and we'll have a different setup for each client on how to utilize this thing. But yeah, so.
I think that's pretty good. I think we're good.
Good.
So we didn't talk about Jake's early on influence in my family life.
Oh gosh, do we have time?
Yeah, we got
time.
Let's see what time we got.
It's 9:50.
It's 8:55.
Oh, maybe we should save that for another time.
We'll have you on again.
Let's just we can hit it in there real quick. So there was one time, Dustin was a hooligan. You don't remember this back in the day. Dustin was
Wait a
very
minute.
much a hooligan.
I never had a bit of trouble with my boys, Jake.
Okay, ever. Okay, so
Except until this moment.
and until this moment, I'm actually gonna go ahead and tell you some stuff on live camera about your friend, or my friend Dustin here. No, I'm joking. No, there was one time I always loved coming to the Mounds' house. I was so nice to Darla. I always was like, hey, Mrs. Mounds,
Yeah.
I'm your favorite, and Dustin's, I'm trying to keep him in line. And one night, Dustin's little brother came in and
Graduating high school.
he's graduating high school, and he asked Dusty a question, or Dusty asked him a question, like, what are you going to do?
It's 11 o'clock at night.
And his little brother says something, and Dusty says, don't do that. That's a bad,
No,
terrible
I'm
idea.
going to cut in here. Hunter was a huge Jason Aldean fan. And he goes, hey, Dusty, we're going to go paint stop signs. We're going to go paint tattoos on this town. And I said, Hunter, that is a horrible idea. You're not doing that. Jake, Hunter, go do it.
Dude, you only live once.
It's all
Just
good.
go do it. What's the worst that can happen?
Hunter, do not listen to Jake. Stop. Do not go. Jake keeps chiming in.
Boys will be boys.
So, long story short,
That was
I
my
wake up-
motto. If I ever got in trouble, I would just always, when we thought about, oh, what if this happens? We'll just tell them that boys will be boys. Like, you guys didn't do this when you guys were kids. That was literally our pitch to get through, to do something bad.
It was him and Hank Hudson. Right? It was him and Hank Hudson. Right?
Yeah,
Hunter and
but I
Hank-
didn't know you'd think you were going to mention someone else.
Oh, shoot. They don't care.
They don't care.
Dash.
Shoot, Dash almost drowned in the lake.
So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I wake up. Hunter's not home.
Excuse me, it's 2 a.m.
2 a.m. Hunter's not home. I call Hunter. Hunter, where you
And
at?
time out. Let's take a little quick time out here. We're, 21, 22?
Yeah, we're 21. Yeah.
And we're
Way old enough to know better.
We're bunking in the same bed. We're having a little sleepover, me and Dustin, in a little double bed, not even a queen bed, or it's a little double bed, and me and Dustin are just curled up, sleeping next to each other for no reason at all. Like we were doing
Just
nothing
hanging
that
out.
night.
We're just hanging out, and we always out the pool hanging out.
So
And
anyways, go on. So yeah, Dusty wakes up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's moving around the bed. I'm like, gosh, what the heck's going on? And then you could finish.
Hunter answers the phone. I'm at the police station. I gotta go. Dad just walked in, and I'm like, oh shit. And I tell Jake, I'm like, yeah, Hunter got arrested. He's at the police station. And Jake is,
Oh, dude, I'm scared.
he is so scared that my mom and dad are gonna just kick his ass. And he's gone. He left. He didn't stay.
I said, you can't tell them I said that.
Apparently you didn't hear me screaming in the bedroom when we got the phone call.
Oh, I didn't. I'm a sleeper.
And the reason they were so worried was he just got accepted into the fire program.
We had just been there for the orientation, and they said, if you get into any trouble, you will be out of here. And that's all I could think about. Oh my gosh, he's totally destroyed his future. And I remember Beth telling me, Darla, if this is the worst thing he ever does, you're going to be fine.
Oh, yeah,
I was
Beth,
like-
I'm sure Beth said that.
I was like,
She's
oh.
like, I'm sure she's like, you have no idea what I'm going through.
So
man.
they were so gracious, though. The police, they didn't arrest them. They just scared the daylight that's out of them, and they had to get, they had to go out at 7 a.m. Carl had them at 7 a.m. out.
Washing them all off.
They had to go get some special stuff to clean the signs off. They had to go clean them all, and then they had to pay, like, I think it was $200 per sign. So they were able to split it because those signs have a special coating on them.
Yeah.
And once you take it off, they won't last. They aren't reflective. So
They need new signs.
no, they
was
didn't
gonna
have to
say.
get new signs. They just had to pay to
Put the coating back on.
put the coating back on.
Okay.
So we did make it through that. But then when Hunter was applying, a few years later when he was applying for jobs, he had to put down that stuff because you can't lie. So
It
yeah,
all worked
Jake,
out.
there was quite a ripple effect from that. You should just be.
I've had a couple ripple effects on my own self. My
I'm sure you
Florida
have.
license had got declined. So
I'm sure you have had some ripples.
but it doesn't matter about the ripples, right? The ripples are good. They make it give you a little character.
It's laughable now, but man,
Oh, at the time I was out. I was peace out. I was like, I got to go home. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I hate waking up early, Dusty, but I'm gone, buddy.
yeah, and I didn't find out for several years that
That's
you were
probably right.
involved in that. That story has unraveled.
Yeah.
I
That's how it usually works.
I've learned so many that there were different layers. There's lots of stories that I've found out layers
We
too.
we could come back on and talk about just stories.
We have we have a couple more, but
So,
we got to wrap it up.
Yes.
And
what episode is this?
this was episode 5.
Episode 5. I think this was great.
It was. Thanks
So-
for coming on.
Coming on and
You're welcome.
yeah, thanks for telling us your success with this, and anybody who's listening.
We can follow up in 6 months
Yeah.
and see how it's going.
Yeah, let's do that in 6 months. Let's see where you're at. Maybe you might be house free
We'll see.
in the debt
Should
in
be.
the debt world.
Could be.
That would be
Keep doing what you're doing.
great.
So, all right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
See ya.
Peace out.